Japan is a great nation, a country where tradition and modernity coexist, and where bustling cities pulse with life. Yet beneath the surface of this vibrant exterior lies a growing epidemic that many find surprising: loneliness. Loneliness in Japan is a multifaceted phenomenon deeply rooted in the nation's history, culture, and evolving social structures. This issue, though often viewed through a modern lens, has historical antecedents and cultural dimensions that make it both complex and fascinating. It manifests in various forms, from the rising number of hikikomori, social recluses, to the alarming demographic trends of low birth rates and aging populations. Today we'll see how Japanese society is dealing with this issue and if there's a light of hope for the future. To understand Japan's struggles with loneliness, one must first explore its cultural underpinnings. Japanese society has long placed great emphasis on wa, or harmony, which prioritizes collective well-being over individual desires. This cultural value is reinforced by tatami, public facade, the concept of maintaining a socially acceptable outward appearance, even if it conflicts with one's true feelings, hon. Together, these principles have fostered a culture of politeness and conformity. Historically, these values created tight-knit rural communities where people depended on one another for survival. Festivals, shared labor, and multi-generational households were the norm, offering individuals a sense of belonging. However, Japan's rapid industrialization and urbanization after World War II began to erode these traditional structures. People migrated to cities in search of work, leaving behind the community bonds of their rural hometowns. Over time, individualism grew, but it was often stifled by the continued expectation of conformity. In this environment, those who struggled to meet societal expectations, whether academically, professionally, or socially, began to fall through the cracks. For some, this led to complete withdrawal from society. One of the most striking manifestations of loneliness in Japan is the hikikomori phenomenon. Hikikomori are individuals who retreat into their homes, avoiding social interaction for months or even years. Their world becomes confined to their bedrooms, where they may spend their days playing video games, watching television, or simply sleeping. Estimates suggest that over 1 million people in Japan live as hikikomori. Once thought to be a problem limited to adolescents, the phenomenon now affects people across all age groups, from young adults to the elderly. The causes of hikikomori are complex and varied, but they often stem from societal pressures. Japan's education system, for instance, is notoriously competitive, with intense exams determining one's future opportunities. The pressure to excel can lead to anxiety and burnout, particularly for those who fail to meet expectations. Similarly, Japan's corporate culture, characterized by long working hours and rigid hierarchies, offers little room for those who struggle to adapt. For some, the fear of failure or rejection becomes so overwhelming that withdrawal feels like the only escape. Adding to this is the stigma associated with seeking help. In a culture where admitting weakness is seen as shameful, many hikikomori and their families suffer in silence. Parents, often driven by a sense of duty or guilt, provide for their reclusive children indefinitely, enabling a cycle of isolation that can last decades. Japan's loneliness crisis is also intertwined with its demographic challenges. The nation's birth rate has been in steady decline for decades, with the fertility rate hovering around 1.3 children per woman, far below the replacement level of 2.1. This trend has created a rapidly aging population, with nearly 30% of Japanese citizens now over the age of 65. Economic and cultural factors play a significant role in this decline. Japan's demanding work culture leaves little time for personal relationships, let alone raising a family. Young people, particularly women, face difficult choices between pursuing careers and fulfilling traditional expectations of marriage and motherhood. As societal norms shift, more women are choosing independence over family life. Financial insecurity is another major factor. The rise of non-permanent employment, especially among younger generations, makes it difficult for many to afford marriage or children. This economic precarity, coupled with the high costs of childcare and education, has led many to delay or forego starting families altogether. The consequences of this demographic shift extend beyond economics. With fewer children being born, the traditional support networks of multi-generational families are breaking down, leaving both the elderly and younger generations more isolated than ever. Among Japan's aging population, loneliness takes on a particularly stark form. As younger generations migrate to urban areas, rural villages are emptying out, leaving many elderly residents to live alone. The traditional multi-generational household is becoming a thing of the past, replaced by solitary living arrangements. This isolation has given rise to the phenomenon of kodokushi, or lonely death. Each year, thousands of elderly Japanese die alone, their bodies often discovered days or weeks later. Kodokushi is a haunting reminder of the social fragmentation taking place in modern Japan. Even in cities where people live in close proximity, the elderly often feel isolated. Many have lost spouses or friends, and with fewer children and grandchildren, they lack the social connections that once defined their later years. Despite Japan's advanced healthcare system, emotional and social well-being remain neglected areas for many older adults. Another factor that takes place is technology and the urban paradox. In Japan's bustling urban centers, loneliness presents itself in subtler ways. Tokyo, with its population of nearly 14 million, is a city of contrasts, a place where people are constantly surrounded by others, yet often feel profoundly alone. Small, cramped apartments and a culture of privacy contribute to this urban isolation. Technology, while a source of convenience, has also played a role in deepening loneliness. Social media and virtual worlds offer an escape, but can't replace genuine human connection. Many young Japanese report feeling lonelier despite being more connected than ever online. Additionally, Japan's highly developed convenience culture, from vending machines to automated services, allows people to meet their basic needs without interacting with another human being. However, in recent years, Japan has begun to acknowledge and address its loneliness crisis. In 2021, the government appointed a Minister of Loneliness to tackle the issue, a move that highlighted the growing recognition of loneliness as a societal problem. Initiatives aimed at reducing isolation include community-building activities, workplace reforms to improve work-life balance, and support programs for hikikomori and the elderly. Grassroots organizations have also stepped in with innovative solutions. Shared housing projects bring hikikomori together with elderly residents, fostering intergenerational connections. Volunteer programs pair young people with seniors, helping to bridge the generational divide. Social events and matchmaking services are designed to encourage romantic relationships and combat Japan's declining birth rate. However, cultural attitudes remain a significant barrier to progress. The stigma surrounding loneliness and mental health persists, discouraging many from seeking help. Overcoming these deeply ingrained beliefs will require not only policy changes but also a broader cultural shift. Japan's loneliness crisis is both a warning and a lesson for the rest of the world. As societies become increasingly urbanized and digitalized, the same forces driving isolation in Japan are emerging elsewhere. The challenges faced by Japan today may foreshadow what lies ahead for other nations. Yet within Japan's struggles there is also hope. Efforts to combat loneliness, from grassroots initiatives to government policies, demonstrate the resilience of the human spirit and the power of connection. By addressing loneliness head-on, Japan is paving the way for a future where no one is left behind. It's a reminder that even in the most advanced societies, the simplest acts of kindness and community can make all the difference.